The US Congress passed a law a few weeks ago saying that they don't want to import a highly enriched uranium. And it turns out Russia's state-owned agency is one of the leading producers of that. And it turns out that same technology that the Russians are using to enrich uranium is what they're using to enrich silicon. So that plays to your advantage. And you've got a technology that you've developed. Could you walk us through high level what that entails?
So we actually have two technologies we're using to enrich isotopes. The first is the ASP process, and that's where the name ASP Isotopes came from. I lost imagination. I couldn't think of another name for the company. We started it up 3 years ago. So ASP is called the Aerodynamic Separation Process. So when you think about a centrifuge that Russia will use, it's a big vertical tube. It's very heavy. It spins around in a circle on its vertical axis. And the heavier isotopes move to the outside of the tube, and the lighter ones move to the inside. That's just the centrifugal forces and forces of gravity. These centrifuges are huge, typically the size of a football field. They draw a huge amount of power. Often you see a power station next to them, and they cost billions of dollars to build and take years to build. Processes, we use a stationary wall centrifuge. So rather than spinning the tube, we actually keep the tube stationary and inject the gas at a certain angle, which allows it to spin round. There's a picture of a traditional centrifuge, and you can see that's a very, there'll be lots of those rooms together, and the gas, each stage enriches the process by a tiny amount. But we keep the tube stationary. Our separators are much smaller than those, and we spin the gas inside the tube, and that allows us to create a vortex inside the tube, and that allows us to separate heavy from light in a similar way, just using gravitational forces. We have some flow directors and specially engineered valve nozzles and what have you. And again, that allows us to separate heavy from light. So our plants are much smaller. They're much cheaper to build, tens of millions of dollars rather than billions of dollars. There's no moving components other than the compressor. So rather than having to find a zone that has no seismic activity and putting the plant on 10 feet of concrete, ours are much easier to put in just like a clean room inside a much smaller facility, a much smaller building. And also, big enriched light as well as heavy isotopes.
Right. So traditional centrifuge, you've got a large industrial facility, billions of dollars, a lot of moving parts. And these traditional centrifuges, you have a cascade or an array or sequence where you've got these spinning centrifuges to separate the heavier from the lighter isotopes. And then you use that sequence to then take the output from centrifuge 1, apply the same process in centrifuge 2, so on and so forth for 100 centrifuges later until you get highly enriched uranium. So your approach, you don't have those moving parts. You create a spinning vortex and using technology to separate the two. Now, I imagine it's hard to get a patent for that because you might be giving up some IP.
Yeah, so we wouldn't be allowed to have patents on our process. The IAEA have classified our subject, the International Atomic Energy Agency, have classified our process as being dual-use technology. And so our plants are a comprehensive safeguard. So what does that mean from a protection standpoint? We have trade secrets and a lot of know-how. If you were to come to one of our facilities, you'll find there's no computer lines or phone lines in or out of the control area. You're not allowed to talk in or phones in. Only certain people have access to the technology, about 9 people. And there's metal bars and protection around the building so cars can't break in or drive through. Every car and every bag is searched on the way in and on the way out. And actually, I'm not allowed access to the technology. Only South African citizens who have been cleared by the Non-Proliferation Council of South Africa are allowed to have access to technology. I'm not allowed in the research center by myself. I have to be accompanied by one of those 9 people. There's exceptional scrutiny and controls over who's allowed to see the technology I've access.